The Fight Against Slavery. Section 2, please buy a note-taking study guide, page 131, and in your textbook on page 296. The fight against slavery is called the Abolitionist movement. This is the question: how did abolitionists try to end slavery? What was the kind of process of how they tried to do that? Okay, so the roots of the anti-slavery movement. In 1780, Pennsylvania became the first state to pass a law gradually ending slavery, because the slavery did exist a little bit in the North before this time, and they gradually reduced it. Okay, Ohio was the first state to ban slavery in its constitution. In 1804, every northern state ended or pledged to end slavery. The American Colonization Society began an effort to gradually free and then send back to Libya. So they would try to free them, and then they would ship them back to Libya in Africa. This actually ended up proving pretty unsuccessful, as most slaves didn't want to go back. Growing opposition to slavery. Abolitionists, this is a reformer who wanted to abolish slavery. There's a couple, we're going to talk about four main abolitionists. First was William Lloyd Garrison. He was founded a newspaper called Liberator. It supported giving all African Americans full political rights. And he also co-founded the New England Anti-Slavery Society. The next person is David Walker. David Walker wrote Colored Citizens of the World in 1829, a pamphlet that called on enslaved people to rebel to gain their freedoms, a little more extreme than William Lloyd Garrison. Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave and powerful speaker. He published the North Star, an anti-slavery newspaper. And finally, John Quincy Adams, a president and member of Congress. He read anti-slavery petitions from the floor of the House, and he spoke to the Supreme Court for 9 hours to help free Amistad captives. These were captives of specific slave boat. Another thing that people did to fight slavery was the Underground Railroad. And you can see a map up there in your corner. There's also a map in your textbook on page 299, and take a look at that and the different routes that they kind of took to northern states and ultimately to Canada. This was a system for helping people escape slavery, and conductors, they would talk in code, and conductors were people who helped runaway slaves between stations being usually homes, churches, sometimes caves, and different places like that. Harriet Tubman, she was nicknamed the Black Moses, escorted more than 300 slaves to freedom in the Underground Railroad during her lifetime. In the North, there was opposition to abolition. There was opposition in the North and obviously in the South to ending slavery. In the North, textile mill owners and merchants relied on cotton produced by slave labor. So cotton from the South, those that relied on that for their livelihood, didn't want to get rid of slaves. And there was a fear, probably unfounded, that free slaves would take their jobs. In the South, they defended slavery as a positive source, that it was actually a good thing. And Southerners in Congress won passage of a gag rule, which meant that, such as John Quincy Adams reading anti-slavery petitions in Congress, they couldn't do that. So there was really, the gag rule basically ended any discussion of ending slavery in the Congress.